And now it's my privilege to introduce our speaker for today and our honoree, one of our honorees, Reverend Dr. Otis Moss, Jr. I recently had the opportunity to join Reverend Moss and Kathy Lewis for lunch, and within a matter of minutes, they launched into a conversation about the challenges facing children today in our communities and contemplating how we can make this cause the country's top priority. In his humble yet powerful way, he began sharing firsthand stories of the civil rights movement, recounting conversations with Andrew Young, Jesse Jackson, and Martin Luther King, leading us to really consider how the lessons of that effort could apply to our ongoing advocacy for children. More than 50 years ago, he became active with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who served as the pastor for his marriage to his lovely wife, Edwina. In 1971, he was co-pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he served with Dr. Martin Luther King, Sr. Luckily for Cleveland, he made his way north to become the pastor at Olivet Institutional Baptist Church. And while we've appreciated him as one of our community's greatest religious leaders, he's also been known nationally as the co-chair of the National Clergy Advisory Committee for President Barack Obama's campaign, among other prominent roles. We are grateful that he shares our passion for children and their teachers, and we look forward to hearing the inspiration he's sure to share with us today. Please join me in welcoming Reverend Otis Moss.
Thank you, my friend, for your exceptionally kind words, and a special thanks with abiding appreciation for the leaders, the staff, participants, supporters of the Positive Education Program. What a marvelous name to give an educational enterprise. I want to thank members of the Olivet Institutional Baptist Church, including the Reverend Register, who is representing Pastor Colvin, persons we have long considered in a special way parents and brothers and sisters and family. There are those extended family members that Olivet adopted even without their knowing it. And they have become productive, affectionate members of that wider family. Time will not permit me to give adequate thanks to those here and those who are absent, and to those who now dwell in eternity, for your blessings in the life of my family, and in a special way, Edwina and myself. We come to this moment of honor and recognition, and let me salute one who is indeed a positive and powerful influence in the Cleveland community and beyond, my fellow honoree, Kathy Lewis. Give her a hand. I want to thank Dr. Joan Campbell for the beautiful prayer, and one who represents us in so many ways, first in Cleveland and then in the entire world. Several years ago, Joan and I were invited to South Africa before the changes came. And we were all getting our bags together, and then we received a notice from the South African Embassy that we have received your application for visa to South Africa, and it has been filed. It remained on file for several years until that day arrived when Edwina permitted me to go to South Africa with her. She was serving on a familiar board, and they had an appointment in South Africa, and I asked her specifically, may I go? And she said yes. So my first trip to South Africa was at the invitation and blessing of Edwina. And then later on, we traveled under a new era. And they said literally, welcome to the new South Africa, with special emphasis on the new. And I think the Positive Education program has the commitment of welcoming students into a new life experience in the pursuit of excellence and fulfillment. Now, let me turn this off because it always rings at the wrong time. And I should have put my remarks on this iPhone, but I tried that once. And some funny stuff came up on the screen, and I lost my confidence. I have to rebuild that. Our grandchildren are working with me on it, and they are good teachers, but they are a little rapid for my progress at this age. Nothing is more significant in our development than having great teachers. My college president often said that an average teacher will just teach. A good teacher will pass on good information. But an excellent teacher will inspire. And we might add that that inspiration will often last a lifetime. Maya Angelou said that people will forget what you said. They will even forget what you do. But they will never forget how you made them feel. I think that can be said about great teachers. When I think about teachers in my own life, I think first about my parents, although they both died while we were quite young. But they were our first teachers. They were our first writers, our first counters, our first hymn books, our first Bibles. They were our first narrators. They were our first historians, our first journalists, our first news reporters, our first storytellers, our first humorists, our first educators. And my first public school teachers really expanded, refined, and programmed a curriculum that had already been set in motion by our parents. And our parents, our teachers, and our community united in holy wedlock to become our first academy, our larger, our extended classroom that eventually became global. My second grade teacher, and members of Olivet have heard me tell this many times, my second grade teacher was a remarkable young woman. I fell in love with her. And when I say I fell in love with her, it was not a light matter. It was a heavy situation. Her name was Miss Mabry, Lottie Mabry. And I dreamed about her every night. The only nights I did not dream about her were the nights I didn't dream at all. She was beautiful. And when she looked at me in the classroom and smiled, it made my education worthwhile. Miss Mabry gave our class an assignment to participate in an oratorical contest. And each student was given the same assignment, the same poem. I still remember it. I had a little nut tree. Nothing would it bear but a silver nutmeg and a golden pear. The King of Spain's daughter came to visit me, all because of my little nut tree. I skipped over water, I danced over seas, and all the birds in the air could not catch me. I said that for Miss Mabry. I won the contest. It was a unanimous vote by my fellow classmates. That's the way she arranged it. I met her several years later, and she reminded me again of what a pleasure it was for me to be in her class. And I reminded her what a great benefit it was for me to be in her class. I lost track of her, searched for her. My younger sister helped me to track her down in Detroit, Michigan, 40 years later. By this time, her body was worn, but her spirit was strong. She had suffered a paralyzing stroke. And I rushed to the table where she was sitting, and she embraced me again. Just as powerful as she did when I was that second grade motherless child. and I thanked her for the inspiration. A second grade teacher leaving a lifetime impression. A teacher is a powerful instrument in the universe. And let me add, it's not in the script, that I think that if our nation is to survive as a world-class nation, there is one thing we must do. We must establish a much higher appreciation for teachers. And one way to do that is to pay them what they deserve. Isn't it remarkable when you add up the amount of hours and days that our children spend with teachers? Just start with first grade and go on through college and graduate school. How much time do we entrust our children to spend with our teachers? And yet, they have to fight and march and protest and almost beg for a minimal pay raise that ought to be automatic in a civilized society. So much for that. I hope the teachers here heard me. And when you get a raise, remember, when a teacher wounds a child, all the world aches, sometimes for a generation or two. When a teacher truly teaches a child, all the world is blessed, not for a day, but for generations and generations and generations. My 8th grade teacher, who was also a 9th grade teacher, was a great English and civics teacher. She brought a radio to class often. On one occasion, she turned on the radio and we listened to Winston Churchill speaking, I think, in the state of Missouri in the United States. Winston Churchill. We were listening to Winston Churchill. And when his address was over, we were led into an analysis of what Churchill said, a critical analysis of what Churchill said. When Ralph Bunche, the first black person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, won the Nobel Peace Prize, that was our discussion in class. And she encouraged me to write for the school newspaper an article on Ralph Bunche. Not only did she bring a radio to class to listen to Churchill, but also to bring us up to date on the election, the presidential election. I will not give the details, but that presidential election was between Truman and Dewey. You look up the information. but she also turned the radio on and let us listen to a baseball game between the Yankees and the Dodgers. That was our introduction to Jackie Robinson. We were Brooklyn fans in the classroom. But it was not just the baseball game she wanted us to hear. She wanted us to walk with and talk with and learn from the struggles, the abuses, the discrimination, the racism that Jackie Robinson was facing for us. A teacher. What a teacher. I thank that teacher at this very hour. When I was the winner of the county oratorical contest, she put me in her automobile. By this time, my father was dead. I had no money. She put me in her automobile and drove 300 miles from LaGrange, Georgia to Savannah, Georgia, to participate on the campus of Savannah State College in the state oratorical contest. I brought back first place because of Mrs. Mabel Warner. Her son later became one of our family physicians in Atlanta, Georgia. A few years ago, I was called back to Morehouse to give the eulogy at his funeral. A teacher bringing somebody-ness to the classroom, bringing the universe in a small, dilapidated, segregated schoolhouse where all the rules of safety were being violated. The superintendent of LaGrange would come to the white high school graduations and shake everybody's hand, the white students, and congratulate them and smile. But when he came to the high school of the black graduates, he would come in a side door and talk to you colored students and call the principal by his first name and then ease out of the side door so he would not have to shake our hands. But teachers, great teachers, marvelous teachers, teachers who could not attend in those days the University of Georgia or Emory University, but the state of Georgia paid to get them out of the state for graduate education. One of my teachers came to Case Western Reserve, paid for by the state of Georgia to keep her out of the University of Georgia. Judge Horace Ward from my hometown, who just passed a few days ago, attended Northwestern University, graduated with a Juris Doctorate degree, came back to Atlanta, joined the Hollowell Law Firm, and became one of the co-counsels for the desegregation of the University of Georgia. And when President Carter appointed the first black federal judge from Georgia, he appointed federal Judge Horace Ward, and the University of Georgia was in his district. and a white woman filed suit against the University of Georgia for gender discrimination. And they had to settle the case in Judge Horace Ward's court. What a remarkable, remarkable turn of history. But a teacher named William Madison Boyd, among others, was a tutor, a mentor for Horace Ward, and inspired him to file the first case in Georgia against the University of Georgia to open its doors to all students without regard to race, creed, or color. A teacher makes the difference. And this says to us that education is everybody's business. And to some remarkable degree, we are all teachers. We are all teachers. And somebody is waiting for us to ring the bell. Thank you.